Namaskar and welcome to Weekly Global Insights, episode 311. As it starts, at the start, I'd like this program, I beg your pardon, I would like you to like this program so that it can reach its maximum potential. Today is Monday, the 21st of February, and here are the main points. But before we go into our points, let's welcome our co-host, Sree 𝗣𝗂𝘂𝘀𝘀. Sridharji, a top of the morning to you, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar and good morning and good day to everybody. Happy to be here. And as Sree IRG said, please press the like button and make sure that everybody gets to hear and about this good program, and we have more people, attending the show.
And before I go into our first news item for the day, I hope you, the viewer, got a chance to watch my discussion with Major General J.D. Bakshi. And he said that a very important point there that is actually happening today. So you will understand how prescient some of our subject matter experts are, including Sree 𝗣𝗂𝘂𝘀𝘀. Everything he said 6 months ago, 1 year ago, is all playing out now in slow motion. And guess what? Our credibility right now is sky high. And I'm really thankful to all our subject matter experts who give us, the wisdom of where things are headed. So let's start with Russia and Europe and the Ukraine developments. The United States President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed in principle to hold a summit on the Ukraine crisis, according to the office of French President Emmanuel Macron. Satellite images continue to show deployment of armor and troops near Ukraine border, and Russia closes its airspace over Sea of Azov as its navy vessels enter the area. Those of you who don't know, it was Helsinki Accord that Major General J.D. Bakshi had mentioned, 1976, I think. Sridharji, welcome, sir, and let me know what you think. He had predicted that there has to be another talk and there has to be another accord.
Well, I think the strategic objective of Vladimir Putin, we have been, in DGI, making a point very clear that the strategic objectives of Vladimir Putin, he will get to accomplish. I think that, again, we'll recap this. He has got three things. One is in Ukraine, there is a Western hoisted regime. Second, this is a long cherished his sour point, which is the decommissioning of the USSR and the defederalization that happened. And the third, there has been this agenda, which in the last 12 months or so has seen the resurgence of surrounding Russia with, machinery and weaponry and missile systems, and having this, coercive threat. So he has, he is playing that card very hard and very strong. And unless there is a concession that is offered, he's not going to bend. And both France and Germany are advocating diplomacy. And German Chancellor Mr. Scholz has stated very clearly that sanctions and other measures or the last resort is not a tool that can be deployed at this stage while we continue to engage Mr. Putin.
And the United States intelligence says that Russia has decided to invade Ukraine. Shelling continues by pro-Russian bloc in the eastern provinces of Ukraine. We talked about this with Major General J.D. Bakshi. Sridharji, these are the two provinces that are not completely under the control of Ukraine. They're under the control of what we call as separatist forces. And we saw convoys of people headed towards the Russian border from these provinces. What is the latest situation, sir?
No, I think these two provinces, again, we have covered in DGI, these two eastern provinces have been fighting for autonomy for a considerable period of time. Again, we probably talked in the last episode, which is namely that one has to understand the demographic composition of Ukraine to understand the nuances before you inject yourself into it. These two provinces had sought autonomy, which the central, Kiev-based regime, which is Ukraine's regime, did not accede. And the Russian parliament was considering voting in favor of supporting the autonomy of these two provinces. And what you're now seeing is that proxy shelling emerging from these two places, though it may not be from Russia, but clearly these two guys are not satisfied with where it is. So there's both internal trouble for Ukraine from these two, and then there is the external trouble at, looming at the threat in the border. Mind you, Belarus is not sitting idle either, and you have the Russian Belarus forces conducting drills on the other side of the border. So I think this is just one big hell of a disaster that the Western Europe has pursued and inflicted on itself when all this region was quiet up until there was a transition in power in the United States.
Sridharji, one interesting data point for you. Somebody has estimated that 75% of the Russian troops, sum total, is now around Ukraine. Doesn't that mean that Russia is leaving itself vulnerable in other fronts? Is that why Putin now wants to sit down and talk?
No, I think that the Russia very clearly feels that they have a very strong footprint around the Central Asia. All one needs to look at is look at the Russian map and look at who its largest borders are with. Besides the Central Asian, China has a long border with Russia. Then, when you take a look at the western side of the Russia are all, the Western Europe and what used to be the Eastern Europe, if you come from the other side, the provinces. So what he has got, he's got missiles, he's got satellites, he's got one of the most potent weapons, which is namely cyber attack. So I don't know whether he has left himself vulnerable. He has very specific objective. Without fighting a battle, he wants Ukraine not to be part of NATO. He doesn't want any missile shields in any part of Eastern Europe, be it Poland, be it the old Baltic states, be it in Romania. In none of those provinces, he wants to have the NATO footprint. That's what he's trying to accomplish. And I think as I mentioned to you, he wants to preserve intact the old USSR in some form of federation. I think he has achieved it as far as the old Central Asian provinces is concerned. He's now trying to do that in the European front.
And now let us take a look at United States news. Afghan evacuees, last of the 75,000 held in US base, freed into the United States amid botched up security checks and tracking protocols, raising security alarms. Sridharji, you've been warning about this for a long time. Am I going to have people knocking on my doorstep, sir?
Well, we have two challenges in this thing, right? We talked about this. I don't know whether you guys have followed. You go back and look at some of the old DJI programs. We had people hiring Uber cars and leaving from this airbase.
Yes.
Airbase, and there was no tracking. I mean, look, United States is really in deep hole. Apparently, the databases, the defense databases, were not accessible for them to do security audits of these people or the validation of the background checks of these people. Can you believe the Defense Department databases not being available? Okay, and now the Department of Homeland Security says, lo and behold, we don't know where they are. We can't track them. This is the situation that we have. All of the 75,000 people have been now let into the mainland United States with no trackability of where they are.
Sridharji, there's a saying in the VC community, as much as they think they are full of four-letter words, they also will tell you that a team will choose only A-type players, right? So you have an incompetent nincompoop at the top. So what do you expect, sir? This is what is going to happen. Let's move on. Here is an interesting news. Joe Manchin joins Republicans in blasting the administration for reckless gas pipeline regulations amidst rising costs. Of course, they just shut it down with even less than 24-hour notice. We talked about this also, sir. Yeah.
Indeed. Sree, I think this particular point is very relevant to whosoever has stated that Russia has left itself vulnerable. Russia has not left itself vulnerable. Here's on the strategic energy situation. Qatar resources are fully tied up and sold to Asia. Okay, fully tied up. They have no contingency. Imagine US has hurt itself by closing pipes and shutting down new leases. And imagine US has to ship natural gas from United States to Europe. What is the alternate to Russian gas to Europe? There's none. So therefore, he has got all the pieces in the chessboard. And this is what Joe Manchin's region has, significant amount of energy workers. And what you're going to do, are you going to say, I support Biden and have hurt the economy and hurt the people in that region? This is another lopsided policy that is hurting in three ways. One, energy security. That's one. Number two, it is going to escalate and increase the cost of gas, energy in our bills in this as we get out of this winter. And third, it is going to hurt us from a future energy requirement point of view as we begin to pile on and more of these illegal people coming into the country. You're not reducing the population, you're expanding the population. Your energy needs expands. What have you done? You're cut. And who are the people who are driving this? These lunatic, progressive, left-wing lunatics.
Sridharji, their gang leader has gone into hiding. Cat seems to have got his tongue.
I don't know. I wish the guy is, I don't think they're going to, they are very, very clear about their policies. Sir, yesterday they made another statement. Progressives are not eating into the policies of, or not eating into the votes for the midterm elections. In fact, we are going to win more and we're going to have more mainstream Democrats switching to the progressives. This is the very assertive statement that they are making. And one of the progressive leaders, if I'm correct, is going to be hosting a meeting in LA with some of the BLM people, with the youngsters, with an agenda of defund police. So clearly they are egged on and supported by a whole host of people. And I think, as someone said, if that is the policy a vast population of United States wants, so shall we have it.
Well, what I foresee, sir, is you will start having silos where you'll start having gated communities, and it will be much more of a exclusive localities that will start happening. You already see that happening in Manhattan. Even in the Bay Area, there are a lot of exclusively cordoned off areas. So you have to actually have permission to get into these places. And that's what's going to happen to just about every affluent neighborhood. Sridharji, we are right now, so scared as to who is going to come and attack our house. It is just a mess, Sridharji. I've never felt that, this is going to be the state of affairs in San Jose, which is in the top 10 US cities, and it is considered the safest city in this top 10. So with that in mind, please understand the gravity of the situation that we are in right now. And Biden administration concedes inflation is real and will hurt further the consumer wallets. Sridharji, what does this person smoke? Didn't they not know that when they shut down the shale gas line and that the other side, Russia was waiting to see if there would be a spike in gasoline price? Was their intelligence such an abysmal failure, Sridharji, that they didn't know Russia had this plan of attacking Ukraine, and they were planning with a barrel price of $45. Today it is twice that. So they have twice as much money now to wage this war, sir.
Yeah. So I think I have I completely see your point. But let's go back to maybe go back 6 months in the daily Global Insights episodes when war drills were conducted by NATO, when British sent its Air Force carrier and it sent its reconnaissance planes. Russia said, why are you guys coming and playing around in Black Sea? So they woke a sleeping giant, okay? And up until that point of time, if there was skirmishes between those two eastern provinces, Donetsk and Lensk, it remained within. And he kept quiet after that Crimean invasion, which happened during another great saga of Mr. Biden-Obama period. Nothing happened at that point of time, right? So and after that, there was this lull. Nord Stream 2 pipe was coming along. I think his economic needs were being met, and he recognized if he did anything stupid, that is going to be affected. Now he's saying, well, I have an alternate market called China. You want to hurt me? No problem. Okay, I'm going to come and hurt you. So I think that what you're seeing is that this is an unwarranted diversion. Remember, again, Mr. Biden and his foreign policy was about withdrawing from everywhere with focus on China. Where are we today? We have taken our eyes off the ball on China, and everything is focused on this stupid Russian problem that we have self-inflicted ourselves. You asked the question, did they not see it? I am sure that they have this self-fulfilling prophecy. All wrong policies to us look wrong policies to them. They look right policies. Under those circumstances, there's not much that one can do if they live in that land of fantasy, sir.
So, viewers, just do the math here. Every group that felt aggrieved has now been paid. It's like the piper being paid. That's what it seems to have happened in this Biden administration. They have reopened talks with Iran. They have basically shut down the shale energy exploration almost all through the United States. They have allowed the immigration unfettered access, and then this is a nincompoop who's sitting on DHS, and now, believe it or not, slowly, drip by drip, step by step, they are doing exactly what the Trump administration was doing prior to 2021 January, which was to police the walls, build the wall. As a matter of fact, they're doing every one of these things. So which part of this did they not understand? Aren't these Ivy League graduates? What for is your job then? I mean, I can tell you, Sridharji, this is becoming like, I want the American people to really teach the Democrats a lesson that they will not easily forget. I hope this happens. Let's see how it plays out. It's not going to be a punching bag for police. Freedom Convoy spokesman announces withdrawal from Ottawa. U.S. House representatives to introduce a bill that would grant temporary asylum to Canadian truckers. I suppose this is from the Republican side, sir?
This is from the Republican side because they feel it is like a fascist policy of monitoring, freezing bank accounts, and putting them behind bars. All those things, if you all remember, those from India, Mr. Trudeau and his regime were talking against Prime Minister Modi when these truckers and the farmers, lined up and, created a mess in New Delhi. And today, he's following exactly the same policy under the pretext of democracy. And, if you have to listen to his speech in the parliament. His speech in the parliament is they are anarchy, they are breaking law and order, they are disrupting trade, they are disrupting supply chains. Well, if it happens in Canada, does it mean it doesn't happen in other parts of the world? Or Mr. Trudeau thinks that he has one set of rules for himself because it hurts him, whereas it doesn't, and it is his kind of allegiance or people with whom he has a following. If they do it in other part of the world, it's okay. I mean, I've never seen any such hypocrisy by a prime minister of a nation in a gap of 12 to 14 months, taking two diametrically opposite positions on a similar type of an issue. So the Republicans are saying, you want to do that, we are ready to support these people.
And in Asian news, Australian Prime Minister wants full investigation into Chinese warships targeting of Australian Air Force plane. This is new. French Foreign Minister slams China on attempts to break the status quo in Taiwan and threatens to intervene. Japan and India eye March summit to discuss Ukraine and Quad. Let's go back to the first news item. Sridharji, you know Australia like the back of your hand. What happened, sir?
Well, in Torres Strait, right up in the northern part of the Australia, which is called as a special economic zone. So it always, Australia monitors that area. There's always been some amount of tension between between Australia and Indonesia in that. It is in those areas you also have, tipping into PNG, Papua New Guinea. So you have the Chinese fleet, which moves around that area. They targeted a laser beam across a P-18 US Australian Air Force plane, and the moment they felt the beam, there was a fear amongst the Australian pilot that there was an imminent attack. So the Australian Prime Minister issued a press statement and said, we have to investigate and call into question what exactly is the intent of the PLA to conduct such provocative incident on a plane in international waters. So it's very clear what you are seeing is that when the attention shifts to Ukraine and Russia, China has a free rein in other parts of the world, and they have been doing something similar in repeated incursions into Taiwan as well.
You know, I'm almost curious if India missed an opportunity to drive back the Chinese PLA army who's camped in Arunachal Pradesh. When Olympics was going on, that would have been the best time to do it quietly. Don't even tell anybody. Just drive the heck out of those guys. But anyway, I don't know if that was tried or not. India does not usually take bold steps. We'll see. China strengthens security ties with Nigeria, and there are no surprises here. Beijing Winter Olympics officially close with Russia-Ukraine politics dominating the global stage. Now it's also open season for China to do whatever hell they want to do with the mayhem they want to do in South China Sea or Taiwan Straits or in LAC, sir.
Indeed. I think that you will see the first set of actions probably in Taiwan. Then the next set of actions will happen in Senkaku, which is in the southern Japan. Then you may see Russia doing something in the Kui Islands in the northern part of Japan. So we'll be going to see some, further attempts with United States going into slumber. One has to say, the country that has taken a very progressive step in terms of its presence being felt is France. France is making the rounds around the world, and where is Mr. Johnson? He's probably conducting parties without mask in and around Downing Street. So, which he is being taken to task. So he has receded into the background, and France has taken a clear leadership role, and we have covered some of these, trilateral relationships that are coming into play. And I think France has also taken an assertive step to say, if anything happens in Taiwan, the French Navy and the French forces will be at work. They've done something similar even for India, if you recall, when the LAC incursions took place, and they accelerated the delivery of their Rafale planes as well.
And those of you who may not be following this part of the news, France has enacted, along with some other European countries and Muslim countries, there is ban on hijab and burqa in some parts of France, not all of it, but they have already done these things. For those people in India who are saying that, oh, this is outrage and blah, 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 you also should look at what Imran Khan has done yesterday. He has gagged the press completely. You can be put in jail without any judicial remand or any kind of access to warrants. Don't have to be issued. If anybody says anything on social media in Pakistan, they can be jailed. That is how well the democracy of Pakistan works. And these people think that India is not treating its minorities properly. India is actually laying the carpet down. As a matter of fact, we are going into India news, and I think we are going to cover this one ghastly murder that has taken place in Udupi. of Harsha. Let's take a look at India news next. India's External Affairs Minister commences his 3-day visit to France to attend the EU Ministerial Forum and Indo-Pacific Forum. State of the border will define relations with China, says Dr. Jaishankar, addressing the Munich Security Conference in Germany. Sridharji, I can now see that India's MEA strategy is beginning to pay off. Absolutely fantastic effort, conducted in a very quiet manner. Just walk us through what is this Munich Security Conference? Because General Bajo was supposed to have gone there and he has skipped it and he is gallivanting around Europe right now.
Munich Security Conference is something that has been going on. It's an annual conference where it brings together nations, just as you have the Shanghai Cooperation Forum. Germany brings together a whole bunch of nations to make sure that there is open rules-based society and there is a dialogue amongst all nations, whether it is Indonesia in Asia, whether it is, as you said, Pakistan, or whether it is Iran, or whether it is United States in Atlantic, whether it is India in Asia. All the nations come and attend. That there is a dialogue that takes place, which is called as the Munich Security Conference. The fact that India is participating in a much more active and forthright manner, I think again we covered this that he would be attending, but he has not lost a momentum in making his case, which is to say, if peace has to prevail with China, then China must address the issue on the border. It cannot do what Russia is attempting to do. It will have severe consequences. And I think that's the subtle message that is being delivered. And if you carefully see, Japan has also simultaneously issued a statement that it will work with India together, be it on the Ukraine side or re-engaging the Quad, because Japan and India were the leaders. And United States, though, may have formulated the policy, but it is Japan under Shinzo Abe who took leadership around the Quad and brought India along. So that statement also is a very telling affirmation that India is right in the thick of things.
From Sardar Swaran Singh, India has come a long way in its Minister of External Affairs. Viewers, you should go back and listen to some of the stories or read some of the stories that used to happen in the United Nations. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was the Minister of External Affairs, I think under Ayub Khan and then afterwards under Yahya Khan, he used to, spew venom at India and shout and all lies, most of them. And then, of course, you remember that he did not want to accept the election of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman as the Prime Minister for the entire country of Pakistan. And from there came Bangladesh. But the best part about this whole thing is this guy, spews venom and he starts walking out of the UN building, and Sardar Swaran Singh goes behind him and says, Zulfi, ye kagaz kuch gir gaya aapke. This is the kind of guy he was. So he is basically taking the country to the cleaners. Why is he bothered about missed papers from Bhutto? This was what was written, sir. This was a disgrace, the way India used to conduct its external affairs. Anyway, I'm glad that some spine is being shown now. I'm very happy about this. And let's move on to the next item. 80% of Indian adult population is fully vaccinated, says Indian Health Minister Mansukh Mandaviya. Buoyed by the vaccine program's success, Indian government plans to make it the global source for health sector and promote medical tourism. Excellent idea, but then for that they need to open the borders. They need to allow all the flights to come in. I don't know if any dates have been announced. Sridharji, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that they're strengthening on the back of what they have achieved. It's a great achievement. Nobody. Again, we were let's go back to last March, April 2021 timeframes when many were questioning whether India had the capabilities. Around, again, June, July timeframes, we had indicated, based on all the data that we have collected, that India is adequately equipped to meet the vaccine obligations that it has as far as the nation is concerned. Yes, it did export initially, and then the pandemic came, and then it went through a setback, but it has recovered. And the fact that they have 1.75 billion vaccine doses have been given is a telling testimony to the way not only the vaccination program has been conducted, but one must commend the people of India for volunteering and taking up this in a brave manner. This is one of the reasons why, when the West is suffering from very active, what you call as the COVID-19 or Omicron cases, India is weathering the storm, and much was predicted, February, March, etc. But I think India has weathered January, India has weathered February. I believe that there was a spike and they've come down. So I think it's an excellent outcome. So they want to leverage on the back of it. Well, India has always been one of the largest producers of the vaccine and has conducted largest vaccination programs. So I think it's a very positive news, sir. I think we have talked about the health is one area, electronics is one area, IT services is another area. You are beginning to see that India is going to also cross the merchandise exports. We covered this 2 shows ago on the exports and the import sector.
And let's take a look at Africa news. US forces commence annual counter-terrorism training program for African forces in Ivory Coast amid chaos in the continent and the withdrawal of French forces from Mali. That Sahel region again, sir.
It is. I think there's basically 2 or 3 important things. Russia is present in Mali. Russia supports junta. And so therefore, when Russian forces support, then France withdraws. The withdrawal of the France has created a problem. And so therefore, what United States and France are doing is they're still conducting either around Niger or in the Ivory Coast area. They have enough number of people to train the forces to combat this, jihadi elements. We covered Sahel. Now, you want to know Sahel, you should go back and see some of our shows. Why? After 2008, 2010 to 2011, you go back to US State Department, look at the map. The whole ISIS region developed around that region. And that is from where a lot of problems the world confronted with, including the resurgence of al-Baghdadi in Iraq. And we are beginning to see some signs of it, but let us hope that these training programs will continue. What doesn't help is the Nigerian forces or Nigerian government having a very strong strategic ties with China. So it's a very polarized area where you have competing forces, you have the jihadi forces, you have the rebel forces. So will there ever going to be peace in that region, which is already suffering from many other issues? One has to wonder when they will see the light at the end of the day.
One interesting thing that you mentioned, sir, about al-Baghdadi. In a previous hangout with Abhijit Iyer Mitra viewers, we talked about the role of 2 individuals which I think ruined Iraq post the dethroning of Saddam Hussein, Jerry Bremer, and they're supporting the Iraqi National Congress without doing adequate research. Both of these were disasters. ISIS was born because of some of the actions that Jerry Bremer did. They should have just taken the top generals who were complicit with Saddam Hussein and kept the remaining law and order machinery in Iraq intact, which they did not do. That gave a free hand to the Shia militiamen, and then it just went downwards from that point forward. Many Iraqi military people went and joined ISIS, and that's why you see there's such a big presence now, and it's now spread all over. I just can't believe that some of these Ivy League graduates think no end of themselves, and then they go and botch up any little thing that they are given. Very, very sad, sir. In West Asia, Israeli Prime Minister says a revived Iran nuclear deal would mean a more violent Middle East. So he has been saying from every rooftop, how much of an impact is Israel having on US policies now, Sridharji?
I think that US is trying to, what I call is create a confusing policy. On one side, it says it supports Israel. On the other side, it has gone back and reneged and going back to this Obama 2015 policy. It has withdrawn from many parts of Iraq, and we talked about the III region. The United States presence is almost absent in West Asia. They want to use Israeli robots to man those regions, whereas Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has struck a deal with Bahrain, has struck a deal with Saudi Arabia, has struck a deal with UAE. He is traveling and making his rounds, forming a strategic umbrella, isolating what is now clearly emerging the Shia region, which is the Iran, parts of Syria, and the parts of Lebanon. And of course, no one doesn't need to mention Iran and Yemen, the Houthis. So these are all, the greater, the Shia umbrella, which is with this new policy that has come out. One important point, since we touched on Israel, one important point that we need to make is that Israel has remained neutral, very similar to India, very similar to Japan on Ukraine. I think we covered this. This just goes under the umbrella, and the world says they are bewildered as to why Israel has taken a neutral position on Ukraine. It has taken a neutral position for two reasons: by looking at itself as to how sometimes people deal with it, and second, Russia has given it a free hand in dealing with the terrorists in Syria and parts of Lebanon, which, if you recall, are traditionally the allies of Russia. So Israel is saying, okay, you scratch my back, I scratch my back, as long as there is no security threat to me and my security interests are protected, I will remain neutral as long as you're not doing anything stupid.
With that, our today's episode comes to a close. We'll be back again on Wednesday. Do like, share, and subscribe to our channel and click on the bell button. Thank you, Sridharji, and see you on Wednesday. Namaskar.
Thank you, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.